Welcome to Media Melanie Talks TV. I'm Melanie, and I'm back today to talk about School Spirits on Paramount+. We are on Season 2, Episode 4, A Walk Into Remember. Yes, they are continuing with the highly clever episode names, and I am so here for that. Something else I'm here for, the fact that our girl Peyton List is essentially playing two different characters, and masterfully, might I add. She is playing Maddie and Janet. I saw in an interview that she and Jessica Bohr, who plays Janet, and she is from the show Shameless, by the way, one of my favorites of all time, they got together to really dial in who Janet is as a character, her mannerisms, her demeanor, and I think they've done a really great job. Visually, they do remind us from time to time that Maddie is in fact Janet by showing an image of Janet with Maddie's body. And the big question now is, how will this reconcile? Will Maddie's spirit be able to get her body back from Janet? What exactly does that look like? And if it does happen, what happens to Janet? Does she just return to Split River High School where Mr. Martin is going to do who knows what to her after having locked her up for a year and then she escaped when she possessed Maddie's body? Lots of things to discuss with School Spirits, but before we get into it, please be sure to like this video and hit the subscribe button. I'm covering it weekly with a reaction and review, plus a theory video, which will be coming very soon. The topic of my theory video this week is going to be, where is Mr. Martin and whose body is he inhabiting? I'll go by some of the visual clues they gave us in this episode, so be sure you stick around for the theory video where I'll dive more into that specifically. All of us School Spirits fans have been waiting for the moments when we get to see the ghosts relive their personal traumas, their scars as they refer to them. We have heard the high school has scars. Indeed, it does. It is pretty dark for these spirits to have to go and relive some of these moments. We saw that with Rhonda back in episode 3. She does, of course, come back and explain to the rest of the group how it worked logistically in terms of having that key with you to enter and then exit the scar. Charlie ends up going to explore his scar as well, but he sees Mr. Martin there, which is pretty interesting. That is where he has obviously been hiding out within these scars, but it's also interesting that he doesn't need a key to access it. This must play into the experiments that him and Janet were doing. They must have found some other type of portal. Could it be that Split River High School is just hell and they had to figure out exactly how to access this portal? It sure gives hell vibes to me. Not only because so many people have died at the high school and now the spirits are inhabiting it in the sense of purgatory, but also just the name in itself, and something I did mention in my first video, the river Styx and Karen escorting these spirits into the afterlife. And it does seem like Mr. Martin is trying to trap them there. I mentioned that before. I've also got a theory that he could potentially be an afterlife serial killer, trying to recruit new ghosts for whatever this experiment is, and perhaps increase the chances that he and Janet are able to escape. I will dive more into that in a theory video at some point, but let's all keep that on our radar. Do we think it's possible that Mr. Martin could be an afterlife serial killer? I am not ruling it out. Speaking of these personal hellscapes, might I just say how gorgeous the set design, the visuals, the lighting, the way the red light comes in and really gives that feel for an actual hellscape. I think these scenes are some of the most well done in this entire season so far. And I enjoy when they step into it. You can literally feel the trauma through the screen. Poor Wally essentially had PTSD after he did visit his scar. He was breathing heavy. He was emotionally fraught. He's not even alive, and the hellscape is hitting them that hard, which is the point, right? They need to step into their scars, accept what happened, and that is how they end up moving on. We did see that with Janet. Rhonda was not able to really confront the teacher who killed her, nor was Wally able to confront his mother and the coach. So I'm guessing he will return into that scar, which he did again to go and look for Mr. Martin, despite the fact he didn't want to, but he couldn't find Mr. Martin there. And my question is, with these scars and the ability to enter them with a key or without, Are they all connected? If they all entered their scars at the same exact time, do they see each other in these hellscapes, or are they disconnected? We know that Maddie couldn't see exactly what was going on with Wally once he stepped in. She just looked out onto the football field, wasn't living that same experience that Wally was having. But I mean, Maddie doesn't have a key, but if everybody who does have one is able to do this simultaneously using that death map that we saw Janet and Mr. Martin have, using their keys to enter and exit, what happens if they do it at the same time? Do they all move on at the same time? Is this a way to close a portal to the split river hellscape of a high school? I keep circling this question because they are giving us a bunch of clues that there is obviously a big connection here. At the same time, I don't necessarily want them to all enter their hellscapes, because what if they all move on? Then what is left for the show? Unless they bring more ghosts in, which is definitely possible, because it is very likely Mr. Martin is out there inhabiting a body this season, putting another potential spirit in the mix, but not necessarily a ghost. I thought at first, when the lights were dimming, it was going to be another death. The spirits put it together that it is not a death, because the same thing happened when Janet inhabited Maddie's body. I'm going to get more into who I think Mr. Martin is inhabiting in my theory video, so make sure you stick around for that. One more little note about the scars. Every time we hear that crack for poor Wally's neck breaking on the field, that cracks me in half. The sound effect of it all might be the worst of all of the deaths. The peanut allergy thing is pretty tragic too. My son actually used to have a peanut allergy. Fortunately, he outgrew it, which is rare, but the stress of having an allergy, not having your EpiPen on you, and watching him literally choke and not be able to breathe, that was really hard, because I love Charlie as a character. He, of course, also had entered his scar, saw Mr. Martin, tried to go and chase him on the football field. But oh my gosh, Charlie. And can we just talk about Churi for another second with the clay and the phallic visuals of all of that, and Rhonda saying, hey, do you want me to leave you guys alone? I thought that was hilarious. And his comment about, can we just start with ashtrays and take things slower? It was just a really great metaphor for glossing over some high school sexual themes. Very understated humor. This is a show I watch with my daughter, so I think things like that go over her head, and I appreciate that about this show. Yes, there is a little bit of language. We did see Wally's mom throw out the P word there, but for the most part, a lot of these high school type of themes and whatnot do go over tweens' heads, so while there may be some moments that may not be totally acceptable for all kids, I always keep the remote on hand to fast forward through just in case. Let's talk about the fact that Maddie is home. I've got to think Sandra Nears is not buying that this is her daughter. She hasn't realized it yet, but between the fact Maddie came home, all she wanted to do was take a bath. She's calling her mama. She wants to just hang out with you and you alone. That is very much not Maddie. They can chalk it up to some sort of trauma or PTSD, obviously. She hasn't shared what she has been through this entire time she's been missing, and was not very forthcoming with details when Sheriff Baxter was there questioning her. And in fact, Sheriff Baxter blaming Xavier's behavior on Maddie being missing, I do understand that, but I think all of these kids have been impacted by Maddie going missing, and now that we all know she's back, this is opening up a huge Pandora's box, because we know that it is Janet in there and it is not Maddie. Some of her friends know as well, not all of them. Claire, for instance, is still really on the line, despite the fact that Simon told her the word Lola, which is something only between Maddie and Claire. But Claire still just can't believe it, because yes, she wants to believe that Maddie is still alive and out there. That scene got me thinking we should all have ghost passwords, so that way, if one of us turns into a ghost, your loved one will know the keyword or the secret password. I will be implementing my afterlife ghost password very soon, so that way, if I become a ghost and need to share an important piece of information to let my loved ones know I'm living, we will all be on the same page. And I encourage everybody to get their afterlife ghost password squared away, because you never know. So Maddie's back. All she wants to do is come home, take a bath. She still has a head wound, which obviously can't be too bad. Otherwise, I'd imagine she'd be deeply concussed or having more bleeding. The girl probably needs stitches, though. I'm curious to see if Sandra is able to notice that bloody towel. The fact that she stashed it under the bed makes me think that Sandra might go snooping around, find the bloody towel, wonder what it's coming from, discover the wound, and start really asking more questions. As a mom, she doesn't want to scare Maddie. She doesn't want her to leave again because she's still not really sure if she left on her own volition or not. So I understand why she is treading lightly. I do think once the friends come and actually talk to her, though, they are going to know, especially Simon, Nicole, and Xavier, who are more bought into the fact that, yes, it is Janet inhabiting Maddie's body. They're out there in their Toyota Tercel looking in Maddie's window. She's closing the shades on them. The demeanor, the manner in which Maddie/Janet is speaking, I cannot speak enough to the talent of Peyton List playing these two characters. There is such a clear delineation between these two girls. It is night and day, and there is no way the friends are going to see past it, even with all of the PTSD and trauma with whatever she might have been through. And this is just one totally off-topic little detail, but I mentioned Simon's Toyota Tercel. That was my first car. I owned that car. Gosh, I must have bought it back in 1996 or 1997. It had a purple sparkly racing stripe on it. Every time I see that Toyota Tercel, it launches me back into my high school years. It's not the most nostalgic of things. Yeah, I mean, it's a much older car and it does seem a little bit out of place in this modern day timeline. But thank you, School Spirits people, for putting in this Toyota Tercel. Let me tell you, it just brings me back to my teenage years, which were a long time ago, and I just really appreciate this little micro detail that nobody else probably cares about except for me, but thank you. This show does the supernatural very well. It leans into it hard, also gives the aspects and the perspectives of the living, and it balances the light, the dark, the levity of it all just so well, and I just can't say enough how much I'm enjoying season 2. Did anybody else notice the photo of Maddie's friends on her nightstand and her mother conveniently names them all out loud? I'm wondering if Janet knows the name of these friends. It does seem like she was following them around. She was camping out at that vacant house. So if she doesn't know their names, then that was very intentional by the writers, having Sandra give her these names. So there's one slight less giveaway when Maddie does end up talking to her friends. And Maddie not wanting to go back to the school, we all know why that is, but Sandra is not sure. I assume they're gonna think something bad happened or somebody hurt her there. That's where Sheriff Baxter is going with these questions. We still have Mr. Anderson popping by to talk to Sandra Nears. Is it possible that they're going to try and blame some of this on someone who's already been cleared as a suspect? Yes, Mr. Anderson was disgraced as a teacher over the patches and stealing the money from the school. But why are they still keeping him around? It could be because, yes, there is romantic potential between him and Maddie's mom. But could they also be setting it up to where Maddie/Janet blames what happened on Mr. Anderson? Janet inhabited that school for years and years and years, so she's familiar with the staff and probably already has some sort of scapegoat in mind. She's going to have to give some kind of information. The silence game is not going to keep working. People are going to want to know what she's been through, who they should be looking for if she, in fact, was hurt. If her head wound is discovered, I mean, that even gives more credence to the fact that someone definitely hurt her and will come to light. She has to blame somebody. In the Friend Alive timeline, we've got Xavier and Nicole still carrying on and not realizing that they're talking to each other, which I think is so cute. And Xavier and Nicole, I think, will make a better couple than Xavier and Claire or Xavier and Maddie. And really, Xavier's going to need this new love interest because the fact that he could potentially be choosing between Janet and Maddie's body or Maddie when she comes back, but Maddie already knows that he cheated on her with Claire. There's a whole love triangle situation happening there on both planes of alive and purgatory. So it's going to be really interesting to see where Xavier ends up and who he ends up with. I'd imagine it's not going to be Maddie or Janet. If you watched my theory video, I surmised that potentially Dale, Janet's brother, could be related to the Baxters somehow. I've also been reading some theories that maybe the brother is somehow Maddie's paternal grandfather, which is possible, but I think we can all agree that they're not mentioning Janet's brother Dale unless there is a tie-in to somebody in the present day. So make sure you watch that theory video, and I would love if you drop a comment and tell me, who do you think Janet's brother is related to? Is there a connection to this present day? I think there is 100% a connection, and that is a big twist or reveal that we'll get towards the end of the season. And speaking of the end of the season, they are only releasing one episode at a time for screeners, which leads me to believe something very big is going to happen. They would not be withholding all of them if that was not the case. Sometimes they'll just keep the finale under wraps, but the fact that it's a week-by-week screener release speaks volumes and makes me think we will end this season with just as big of a twist or reveal cliffhanger as we did in season 1. And the way season 2 is going so far, I'm hopeful for season 3 renewal news. Hopefully the sooner the better. So let's all try to manifest that as we are out there seancing in our school spirits' lives. And poor Claire, she's got the situation with her parents. She's trying to reach her mom. Her mom's not talking to her. She is ripe in her skin suit for potential occupation, and I do think there is a chance Mr. Martin is in Claire's body. Again, I am getting into that in my theory video, so don't miss it. Why the big focus on Claire and her family? Is it just to create this big emotional storyline to make Claire more vulnerable, or is there going to be more to it? I like that her and Nicole are really becoming friends, coming closer together. If nothing else, a big silver lining with everything in school spirits and the fact that Maddie died / is being body snatched is that all of these friends are coming together, working together for a common cause. We saw a lot of that theme in this episode anyway, with this senior togetherness day put on by the principal, and we've got the principal back again, and something about that principal, I think he's connected as well somehow. I'm not sure exactly yet, but let's also keep him on our school spirits murder board. I love seeing the snippets of the ghosts and their murder board. By the way, nothing like an Afterlife Nancy Drew Hardy Boys investigation. And as Xavier is investigating his feelings for Maddie, he is actually unable to speak with her. Xavier and Simon are in the greenhouse, and Simon lets Xavier know that Maddie's there. He's prepared this whole letter to read to her about how he's feeling about everything. He can't do it, even though he himself has experienced a purgatory situation when he was in the hospital. For a quick second, I thought that would be the moment that he could actually see Maddie. If it is just that you need to believe to see her, I think that would have been the time, but it could be because Xavier still doesn't fully believe. If I'm guessing the next one to be able to see Maddie, I'm thinking it's going to be Nicole. She's into the ghost stuff. I think she has fully come around to the fact that her friend isn't dead and it is Janet inhabiting her body, possessing her body. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Nicole being able to communicate with Maddie at some point this season. I want another one of the friends to do it, not just Simon. It just continues to raise the question for me. Why is Simon the only one? There was this interview where the cast was talking about different theories and brought up one from Reddit that Simon is slowly dying from a brain tumor, which makes him more susceptible to be able to see Maddie. I think that's a really fun theory and I love it. I'm not sure exactly who came up with it. Again, the cast mentioned it in an interview. And I don't think that's it, but I do think there will be some sort of revelation as to why Simon can see her. What do you think it could be? Is it just that they're best friends and they're really close and that Simon believes in it? Because there was a little while that Simon was not believing, but he was still seeing her. So if it's not that you have to believe, then what is it? And that moment when Xavier is unable to read the letter to Maddie, it just leans into the absurdity of the fact that this is all a supernatural situation, but at the same time really gives credence to this storytelling and the fact that we are in a young adult teen supernatural drama here at a high school, and makes us just all so vested in this story. There's plenty of other supernatural teen drama shows out there. This one just hits a little bit differently for me. It's the music, it's the fact we have intergenerational ghosts all getting together and investigating mysteries. And it is the twisty type of show that just keeps on giving. So what is going to be next in episode 5, you guys? I cannot wait to see. And we've got a lot of questions that still need answering. The biggest one, which I brought up at the beginning of the video, of course, is how is Maddie going to get her body back? How are the friends going to facilitate this? Get Janet somehow back to the school so they can do this body swap? And is the body swap somehow involved with the death map and the keys? Has this ever happened before? Have Mr. Martin or Janet possessed a body before that we don't know about? And perhaps that could be a part of the big reveal this season. And if so, who was it and when? They've been there for decades and have ample opportunities to do so. What exactly were these experiments? It does seem like it is the trauma, the access points, the keys, the portal, the possession of other bodies who are essentially having these vacancy signs above their heads because they are troubled souls at that moment. Are any of the other friends going to be able to talk to Maddie? Where is Mr. Martin and whose body is he inhabiting right now? And will they be able to trick us and make us think that it's not Mr. Martin? And if so, when are they going to reveal who it is? Be sure to check out my theory video dropping soon. I am going to talk all about that. Things I want to continue to see moving forward. I would like to see more Maddie and Wally. I love that she's there to comfort him, to help support him. I want more kissing. I love the two of them together. And it really worries me about what will happen if Maddie leaves him. Perhaps Maddie leaving will be a part of what helps Wally ending up moving on. I guess that is all to be determined. But the afterlife ghost love triangle of this all as well is just so compelling. It's like a ghost soap opera, and I love it. But the biggest takeaway from this episode for me was really the emotional weight of it all. Watching these teens relive their deaths and their hellscapes gives this so much more depth into these character stories. Talk about dramatic tension. It is so hard to watch. I can't imagine what these poor ghosts are going through. But them working together to solve the mystery in both timelines, the mystery of this show, I love it. There is nothing better than a strong mystery. It makes us really question things, makes us theorize and try to figure out what's going on, even though sometimes it's virtually impossible because they're so good at keeping some of these twists under wraps. But I want you to like this video, go down into the comments and drop your leading theories about all of the mysteries and how they are threading together this season. What do you think is going to happen? Where do you think Mr. Martin is? Are the friends going to be able to talk to Maddie? And how will the Janet and Maddie soul situation resolve itself? Or will it cliffhanger us on into season 3? Either way, I am so here for it, and I hope that you'll stick with me as well. Be sure you're subscribed. I do cover a lot of other dark TV shows, currently Severance on Apple TV+, The Hunting Party on NBC, Paradise on Hulu, a new one by Dan Fogelman, creator of This Is Us, and it stars Sterling K. Brown, who is phenomenal. And The White Lotus is coming up this month. Are there any other shows that you'd like to see me cover? I'd also like to know that, so let me know. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will be back soon. Do not miss my theory video dropping very soon today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again soon. Media Melanie, clicking off.